So, so you know what? We got you here. You just fired up a joint. We just cracked the bottle. Let's talk about the whole cultivating process then. Do you mind? You got time? You got another like 50, you got like 15, 20 minutes or something like that?
Yeah.
All right. So when you say you want to grow some bud, you know what I mean? What would be the first thing you gotta do? You gotta find clones, right? You gotta find what type of strain. Or have you ever did it from the seed, or you usually just buy you buy flowers already already grown, kind of somewhat?
Yeah, I had tried in it to grow from the seed, and which I have.
Cheers, Jake.
Cheers.
Yeah. Yeah. So you,
I have grown it from seed, and it's a lot better. It's a lot stronger, like the DNA of the plant.
let me ask you, like, if you keep cloning the same plant, does it start losing its potency? Like, it's not as strong as it used to be when it first started?
No, that's actually a fact. Like,
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking too. Like, start from scratch from seed, because I think if you keep on cloning the same plant, like, it gets weak.
I mean, it gets weak over time.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen in like a couple months. Or it's gonna take at least like a year for the plant to be like fully weak, and
Yeah.
maybe you start seeing it on the mother. Like it's already
From the mother's on.
yeah, it's getting weaker. Or a lot of people do is clone it from the same plant that they're already having. They don't have a mother, and they just keep growing it and just cutting from that plant.
But did that weaken it too?
Yeah, it's actually making it weaker.
Yeah, that too. So once you get your little seedling, you get it growing, you got roots coming out of it, right? You start with the little cubes and shit, little cubes about this big. Once you start seeing little sprouts, then you put it to the, depends if you're doing indoor or outdoor. Then what will the next step be called?
The next step from putting that, we put in it, if you're growing indoor, then you put it in a bigger cube, and the one that's gonna be permanent. And if it's a greenhouse or outdoor, then you just put it on the dirt, straight to the dirt.
And then, so when it's a clone, when it's still a baby, before you transplant it to the permanent foundation, well, you gotta give it like a bunch of root nutrients to get the roots nice and strong. You can't like what all what's the nutrients that you give it from that period to the next period? I mean,
Well, that is a good question. I mean, you use mostly a lot of what I use just the root medicine or protein, and I use like the base nutrients too, which is like the green color that I use, and just keep it like that with a little bit of Protec and some Calmex, and it keeps it rolling.
and then from there, when you put to the permanent destination, like from there, there's like a whole phase until you actually cultivate, right? Until like the last 2 weeks, something like that, when you give it the so it blooms and shit like that.
So from that process to put it in the cube, then you just take out the root thing. You just start giving it a base and some other nutrients as well, so you can make it stronger and it can stay healthy. Because that's the most important thing on this. Like sometimes we just get ahead of ourselves, and sometimes we don't think that it's gonna happen something when you put a little bit too much, and it starts getting yellow, and then it goes all downhill from there.
So if your plant gets a little yellow, like what could be some reasons or why it might be turned yellow?
Too much nutrients or too much feeding, that could happen, or not enough feeding, that could also make it happen. So you just have to be right on point with that.
And the water be real important too, the pH and all that shit.
Yeah, the level of the pH has to be just balanced right.
Dang. You gotta be like a little scientist, kind of, no?
Yeah, it's like a science. It's all about science here.
So like, I'm pretty sure at this point though, you kind of can you tell by looking at the plant, you get do you become one with the plant and shit? Like you can tell the need, can you tell what it needs and shit?
Well, as you keep working with it, I'm pretty sure it's just like any other job. You start getting used to it, and you start learning and seeing what is happening, and you you just get better at it, you know. So that's basically like if you're doing a construction type of thing, you know, the first time you just don't know where to put or how to put a freaking 2x4 or anything like that, and then when somebody just tells you, oh, this and that, you already have it.
It's experience,
It's just experience.
Right on, right on. Then so from there, you go to the flowering stage, right? And how long? Like that's like what the last 2 weeks? I want to see like the last.
Well, once it goes to the flowering stage, it's like another 2 months. So it's like another 60 days. How I feel.
What's that one? What's that powder you put when you put the powder? And then from there, you're like 60 days away. You mark it down. You know which one's that one?
That was actually like the powder to make the bud kind of like the end of the cycle.
Yeah.
You know, so they can make them tighter and it can kind of give you some weight. You know, other than that, your bud will just stay like kind of like hairy. You know, like.
Do you keep a cycle like? Do you do it by days? Like, do you know how long each batch more or less going to take to like cultivate? Do you go like 90 days cycle, 100 days cycle, or you just go like you just?
I go by weeks, so it's from week to week 1 to like week week 8 kinda.
Week 8.
Yeah,
8.
eight to 9.
So like 3.
You know? So it's like 2 months.
Yeah. Damn, you get a batch that quick. Damn, I'd be fucking lagging it. Yeah, I know a lot of people. They'd be like writing everything down like day by day by day by day.
Yes,
by day.
that's there's a lot of people that see they do a lot of experiments.
Mm-hmm.
So when they do that, they write what they're seeing and the reaction of the plant. You know, like if you want a certain reaction, if you want something from your plant.
So that's when they're learning them how like,
Yeah.
oh, don't do that no more and shit.
Exactly.
Right on. And then what's that shit? Do you go by the full moon? Like you're supposed to trim on the full? Do you follow that shit? Does that shit really got something to do with the plant?
It does really helps, and it's a funny concept, you know, that some people work with the moon and they know when it's happening and what it does to it.
So there's some astrology to this shit too. Like the moon actually has something to do with like I don't know how. It's like the plant can like never even see the moon. It'll be in the garage, dig what the fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can't, like so is that like superstition or is that real shit?
It's actually facts, like
Damn.
yeah, because sometimes when the moon is already in the point, you know, and then you don't follow kind of that thing, and I've seen it happening where I have my bud is already like ready and it looks so ready, you know, and I don't cut it, and because I just decided to give it another week for some reason or another, and the moon just passed. It starts getting like trying to bud again, like it starts getting like soft instead of getting hard.
Yeah.
You know, it starts getting soft.
Starts opening again.
Yeah, it starts opening again and trying to flower, and it's
As soon as you pass the moon, they'll
it's
do
already
that.
past the moon, and then you're already like past that cycle.
And it's just going backwards
You're
and
just
shit.
going backwards, or you're just fucking up.
Oh damn, you shit.
Yeah.
And what else? So then after that, let's see. You chop it all down. Do you have like a certain drying process? I know everybody always tries different shit. Dehumidifiers, put it in paper, put it in Tupperware and hang it and with the light on, the light off. Right? But drying, like the whole process is important, no? Like the longer it takes to dry it, the better. Or I know some people like to rush it. Like, what's their method?
Actually, that's a really good thing because the drying part is so important as your whole cycle of growing it. You know, like if you grew some bomb ass weed and you didn't dry good, then your whole time is just wasted. You know, so there is a good process to do it, and yeah, I mean, I use dehumidifiers. I use the AC, you know, so they stay kind of in between warm and cool. I don't want to dry too quick, and I don't want to work it wet still, you know.
Yeah.
Because it also affects if I put it in the bag kind of wet, it's gonna take take away my arms, and I just can't handle it.
Yeah. How about the workers? Workers complain when it's wet, like, it's too much, sticking everywhere.
Yeah, they actually.
We at town, just cut that shit.
The workers always complain, man. They always complain. It's always a thing.
Yeah.
If it's too dry, it's too dry, and if it's too moist, it's too moist.
Everybody's a pro, huh? Like, to be honest, I do, like I said, I be fucking around with it. But I don't know, you know me, I be always have fucking workers and shit, so. I mean, I'm like a supervisor type guy, but at the end of the day, I think everybody does their own shit. I'm not gonna be busting their balls. They're doing like the last thing you want, someone busting your fucking balls. You know what I mean? I try to be cool. They say I'm an asshole. I don't know what. I try to be cool though. I don't know what more they fucking want from me, goddamn. It's like, dude, can I get a little bit of respect, nigga? What the fuck? Can't even get that, dude. You know how that goes, dude.
Yeah.